everyone. Today is Wednesday, December 30th, 2020. The time is 10:09 a.m. This is a special meeting with our Human Resources Department to consider personnel changes. Attending in person are Commissioners Duncan and Fillios. Joining us by phone is Commissioner Bill Brooks. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, our one and only business potential action item, Families First Coronavirus Response Act policy. Our HR director is with us, Sylvia Proud. Go right ahead, Sylvia.
All right. Red lights on or? Red lights should be on. There you go. All righty, there we go. So I wanted to update the Board of County Commissioners on the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which is known as FFCRA, which was a federal mandate that went into place April 1st and is expiring December 31st of 2020. The new coronavirus relief package did not extend FFCRA mandated paid sick and family leave, so employers may voluntarily offer paid sick and family leave to their employees if they so choose. What the feds have indicated is that if you were eligible for the payroll tax relief, they would extend it through 3/31 of 2021, but we don't qualify for that. So, but they were gonna, if employers did do that, then they were extending that relief, the tax relief to them. The paid leave that was granted through FFCRA was covered by Kootenai County's budget, not covered by the CARES Act grant or other sources. Correct, Dina? That's correct. For Dina, yes, okay. So I just wanted to have a discussion with the board and see if there was what you would like to do with it. If you wanted, just some of the options are let the policy expire as was originally approved by the board. In that, then employees would be using their own sick leave accruals, and then if they ran out of sick leave accrual, they can use their other leave entitlement benefits that they've accrued. And then leave without pay, potentially for a COVID-related illness. Another option would be to offer the full policy benefit the way it was originally written for all 6 reasons, and consider keeping that in place through that March 31st, 2021 date, or potentially do a temporary sick leave policy for COVID. My thought around that would be we offer a modified benefit to employees only for their own illness or quarantine who have not used any FFCRA benefits to date. If you've already used your 80 hours of leave, you wouldn't qualify for it. We would just extend it. That would mean for a full-time employee, you would allow them 80 hours of 100% of pay for one of the illnesses. Specifically, it would be reasons 1, 2, or 3, which employees subject to quarantine or isolation issued by a state, local government type thing. Employees are advised by their health care provider to self-quarantine, or they're experiencing symptoms and seeking a diagnosis. So we would just, that's kind of just some of the ideas that I had. Would like some direction, because I know come tomorrow or the first day of work in 2021, there'll probably be questions on, is anything else going to happen? I think we should notify countywide management of whatever action is determined by the board to take.
So anybody who's on FFCRA right now is going to, I think we need to keep them on it until their 80 hours is exhausted.
Yes, what we've been doing is notifying individuals as they came in and applied that is scheduled to expire December 31st. So everyone's aware of that. There could be the potential, I think we had 1 or 2 employees that are having a reoccurrence but still had some of their 80 hours left. So
Sure.
If you wanted to allow them to get their 80 hours, that's fine. The question then I would have is, some people are on intermittent leave for child care issues. Do you want that extended as well?
At this point, for me, I want to see that anybody who has not used their 80 FFCRA hours and who does those 1, 2, or 3 reasons, that we honor it for them. Because it's not really fair that they didn't get it before December 31st, and now they got it January 4th, and now they're out of luck, but you know, the rest of the county population got to use theirs. So for me, I think that's only fair to extend it for those people who have not used it yet.
And either way, we're paying for it.
Yes.
Yes, either way. So, and, you know, doing this until March 31st, I think is fine.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that either.
And then there's also new isolation guidelines that if we can follow those, then I think we're going to have less issues with people going over their hours. So, yeah.
So where does that take us then? Go ahead.
What do you mean?
Based on what we just said, Leslie and I, okay, so we're going to extend until March 31st, which is going to be essentially the 80 hours for anyone that has not yet used it up.
Yes, for reasons 1, 2, and 3. So the
Okay.
other reasons will expire.
So we would probably not want to call it the FFCRA
Correct.
policy. My initial thought was, and we can work through the logistics of it, it's a temporary sick leave policy for
Yes.
COVID,
Yes.
for the employee only
Yes.
at this point. It seems fair. The benefit about that is we have new employees that come on board and then they get COVID while they don't have any leave time.
Correct.
So the way FFCRA worked, it allowed an employee, as long as you worked for us for 1 day, and even if you were a temporary, you got the FFCRA benefits. So I'd like to ask the board to kind of keep that parameter in place as well. So we would call it something else, maybe just a temporary sick leave policy through March 31st.
Yeah, for COVID.
For COVID-related, reasons 1 through 3.
Yep, go ahead.
The eligibility would be the same.
Yep.
The question I do have, for covered employees, FFCRA excluded emergency responders. So that was the sheriff's office, juvenile detention, those kind of areas. Do you want, there's a mix of, some are receiving admin leave with pay, some are having their staff take their accruals, and if they run out, then they give them admin leave with pay. We need to figure out how we want to do that. I mean, if they're getting admin leave with pay, why not incorporate them eligible in this
Right.
scenario?
What's the difference?
Yeah,
It's
what
their,
is it?
yeah, it's still the same dollars, basically.
Right.
Fine.
So,
Jen?
Yeah, Jen?
Sorry, you have to come up to the microphone because Dave and Bill can't hear. Red light's on.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay.
With District Court, the Idaho Supreme Court mandate, are you guys still going to extend the admin leave if they have to stay out 14 days, or if they?
Yeah, I mean, we have to cover that.
Okay, so
That's,
just to
to me, that's
clarify.
a separate issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is where a supervisor is demanding they not return, and so we have to cover that.
Beyond their
under
control.
Yep, beyond their
Yeah.
control, so. Yeah, that's a separate, I wouldn't even necessarily call that the COVID,
Right.
you know, temporary policy, because if they're not having symptoms, they're not sick, they're not falling in 1 through 3, they're falling in the fact that the supervisor says you
Yeah,
must,
precisely.
you know, stay out, so.
okay. Okay. So we'll include first responders.
So-
Or,
I know what they've been doing, but why weren't they included in the
Yeah,
first place?
that's my question too.
the law didn't require them. The reason is because you need your first responders out there, servicing.
So you don't want them to take time off?
But they need, it's weird because the law said you can exclude them. And then when you look at the Department of Labor's FAQs, they're saying at least you should potentially consider making sure that the employee is covered.
Right.
Give them that 80 hours for their own illness. So that makes sense. So looking back, lessons learned, we probably should have really focused and said, okay, what do we really think about this? And
Right.
potentially not excluded them, or maybe just allowed it for the employee themselves,
Right.
because you don't want them coming to work sick and bringing it in.
Right, so my issue is, if we include them now, I want to make sure that anything that was counted admin leave, but was actually FFCRA, you know, that we don't nobody gets double credit. So that would be my thing. So if we had a first responder who was out for 80 hours and they had straight admin leave, that now they're not going to get this temporary COVID sick leave.
So
Yeah, it's- in other words, it would be a double dip,
Right.
in essence.
So pretty much any use of admin leave with pay would be factored into if that
Yes.
80-hour calculation.
Yes.
It'll probably take some finagling and really monitoring between
It almost-
payroll
Yeah.
and HR, but we could
And I
work
think
that
the
out.
number of those people are going to be under 50, under 30. I mean, I can't imagine we have that many people. Now, the concern too is when you're talking about, and correct me, Jen, if I get this wrong, if a court employee gets exposed, they're out 14 days no matter what. But if that same court employee never comes down with it, but because of Supreme Court stuff, that's admin leave. But then if they come back and a week later, they actually do come down with it, then to me, they haven't used their 80 hours of the temporary COVID
Correct.
sick.
Two separate
I agree.
situations.
Yes, so
Yes.
I apologize for having that complication, but that's the only way I know how to keep everything on the same, treat everybody the same.
Yes.
Sounds fairly complicated, so we'll probably want to spell it out in the policy,
Yes.
what counts for what, because, you know, I've heard rumors that there was some abuse of this. So, you know, we want to make sure that there isn't the double dipping, like you said.
Right, okay.
Okay, I will draft something up, send it to Dave. I'll send it to Darren too. He'll be back on Monday. And then we can get it approved.
On Tuesday business
We
meeting,
could try.
okay, we can always pull it. So all you
Okay.
need to
Yeah,
do,
just get it scheduled.
yeah, just get it as an agenda item. We can always pull it if it's not done.
Okay,
But I think sooner the better.
yes, because I know come Monday when we flock in from our holiday, we'll have people going, we have sick employees, what do we do?
Right. Well, I know one department has 5 or 6 right now, you know, exposures plus positives, so, yeah. Thank you, Sylvia, for working on a temporary solution, because I frankly could not wrap my brain around what could we do without extending the policy.
Yeah. So for reasons 4, 5, and 6, does the time extension still apply?
No.
It does not.
No,
So deadline is December 31st.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it really, we're gonna focus just on the employee with
Yes.
this temporary policy and not the family members or
Right.
child care issues or whatever. You could if you chose to, but it sounded like there wasn't the will for that.
No,
at this point.
not at this point.
Bill, any thoughts?
No, I've been listening, and it sounds like a complicated problem, but it sounds like Sylvia's come up with some good alternatives.
Okay. So for, Nancy, how many are listening in? 7? Sylvia, just for everyone's benefit, could you briefly summarize what we've, I guess,
What we're gonna go
basically
forward
concluded?
with?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so the discussion where we're focused at now is allowing a temporary sick leave policy for employee-related COVID illness, and it'll be based on 3 reasons. The first one being employee is subject to a federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation order related to COVID-19. Number 2, employee has been advised by healthcare provider to self-quarantine. Number 3, employee is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and is seeking a medical diagnosis. So that would be being tested, those sort of things.
Yep.
Eligible employees would be any employee that has worked for us at least 1 day. a full-time employee would be eligible for up to 80 hours of leave, and a part-time employee is eligible for the number of hours of leave that the employee works on average in a 2-week period. The other thing we would be factoring in is that if an employee already has used their 80 hours anywhere between April 1st and December 31st, they don't get an additional 80 hours. We're just extending the ability to have 80 hours available for
Through
a
March
related-
31st.
Through March 31st for the employee's illness. In that factor, if it was an FFCRA specific leave that they had used their 80 hours, if anyone has been on admin leave with pay for 80 hours, they would not be eligible for this temporary sick leave policy.
Correct. And
Now, that would be if they were ill, right?
yes,
If
yes, because what we have with court is people.
That's different.
Healthy people are being
That's
quarantined.
that's
Yeah.
employer.
Yeah.
So that's different. So I'm thinking we're only really gonna have to deal with the sheriff's office and district court. I think those are really gonna be the only two that we'll have to look at deeper.
Right.
Juvenile detention, I think.
Okay.
As well.
Well, any of the first responders, I should have
Yes,
said.
yes,
First responders
yes.
plus district court.
Yes, and our first responders are included in this now, sorry, thank you for that reminder. I think that's, and all of this will be in place from January 1 through March 31st
Yes.
of 2021. We could always come back and revisit it just like we did this.
Fair enough. Hey, Darren?
It's Dave's on
Dave.
the phone.
Oh, Dave, just so that we, we don't have to repeat everything that Sylvia just said, can we turn that into a motion referencing her summary?
Or we can just motion that she goes through with this policy and then we ratify it on a business meeting.
Yeah, I think the record is pretty clear about what's happening. If you just want to state, state briefly in your motion what's happening, and then, like Leslie suggested, you can ratify the policy at a next business meeting.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
Anything else?
No, Bill, any questions?
No, no questions.
Okay, then,
All
motion.
right, I move that HR go forward with a temporary sick leave policy related to coronavirus that offers a modified benefit for reasons 1, 2, and 3 to extend through March 31st, 2021.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan,
Aye.
Chairman Fillios.
Aye, and the motion is carried per Sylvia's recommendation. Public comment? Hearing none, 10:29, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.